Hello, my name is Tom Palmer, and I'm a children's author. I write a lot of history books, and this is a short video, shortish video, which I'm intending to be sort of a writing workshop relating to VE Day. It's 2025. This May, it's the 80th anniversary of the Victory in Europe Day, when the Nazis were defeated by the Allies, and this, I thought, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the country about it, I thought I'd do a writing workshop. And I've done this writing workshop in schools in person, but I just thought I'd do this as a virtual one. And for teachers watching, I'm going to sort of go along, and then I'll suggest that you stop and have a little chat for 5 minutes at sort of 5 or 6 places. And so this video will probably, if you're actually doing it in the classroom, last like 3/4 of an hour or something, but the actual video will probably be like 15 minutes that I make, hopefully. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. So I write about history. I write about real things that have happened to real people during history, and I struggle to come up with ideas for stories. And what really helps me is real artifacts from the Second World War. There's this, which we'll be talking about in a minute. There's this, and there's this. And you might want to have a think about what these objects are. If you've got time, you might want to have a think about what, hang on, that one doesn't show up very well, does it? What on earth these things are, because I have used these things to help me write these 3 books. And then what I'm going to do is show you how I've done that in my books briefly-ish. And then I'm going to show you this object, artifact, and challenge you to write your own story using my technique. And my technique is very simple. The kind of thing you might have been using since like year 3, but it works for me because it's simple, and that works for me very nicely. So the technique is this: when I write a story, I get a real object or an artifact from history, and I ask myself the questions: what is it? Who used it? How was it used? Why was it used? When was it used? And where was it used? And now it's astonishing to me, like how those simple questions sort of can crack open a story, and not just, this is an object, this is what it was used for, but it can break open into real people's lives and what they went through, and we can empathize with them and feel strong emotions about what these real objects are. So that's what we're going to do. And I thought I'd guide you through 3 objects that I've used, and then I'm going to challenge you to write or plan at least a story based on what I've got in my hand here. Right. The first one I'm going to show you is this. This is probably the least easy thing to show you. This is not showing up on camera at all. Hang on, that might be a bit better. This is a silk map. What is it? It is a silk map. When was it used? It was used in the Second World War. Who by? It was used by the airmen who flew over, I'll just get this right, Belgium and Germany during the Second World War, to bomb Germany during the Second World War. It was a very controversial thing, but the British and American planes did a lot of bombing of German cities. And if you were shot down while you were doing one of those missions, you would have had one of these. And why would you have it? So to ask the question, why would you have it? Because if you survived getting shot down, you could use it to escape. And I used this to escape the Nazis. I used this in Spitfire, where the main character in this book, who's called Greg, is shot down, and he uses this to escape, to evade capture by the Nazis. And it was really useful for me having this in my hands, having it on my table. I'm just not really showing it off. Look up silk maps. It's the light, it's so weird today. Look up silk maps, Second World War, and like tens of thousands of these were made, and this would be a lifeline for someone. And also, it's made of silk. Why is it made of silk? Why is it not made of paper? If you were going to get shot down in a plane, you could end up somewhere very sort of muddy or sort of like difficult. And if this did get dirty, if it was made of paper, it would just disintegrate. But if it's made of silk, you could rinse it in a stream and you've got an escape map. So that's the first thing I've used in a story. Another thing I've used in a story, in the same way as this, what is it? So let's go back to this, and you can freeze frame this. Basic, isn't it? But that works for me. So what is this? What is it? This is an entrenching tool used by the British Army in the Second World War. And it is an entrenching tool used to dig trenches, used for hand-to-hand combat against the enemy, but mainly to dig trenches, which you need to do if you're on a battlefield and you need to get out of the way, for instance. So why is this important to me? Because when I was writing Angel of Grasmere, that character there, the one in the background, he is a soldier who's deserted, and he's still got some of his army kit, and he's got PTSD. So who is he? He's a soldier. He's got PTSD, that's post-traumatic stress disorder. That means he's really troubled by what's happened to him during the war. And he when he gets really troubled, he digs himself a little trench and he lies down in it. And that is how he copes with his anxiety in this book. And that was based on me reading a book about a soldier who hadn't deserted, but who had been in the army. He was really troubled. So you could call it shell shock or combat fatigue. And when he got anxious, and this is at home in his garden or locally, he used to dig a shallow trench and lie in it to calm himself down. And I was really moved by that. And I was really delighted when my wife got me this for Christmas, because it means I've got a 1943 entrenching tool which directly affects this story that I wrote. And that, I don't know what it is, but a real historical object. Can you imagine the man holding this and trying to dig a trench? You imagine his how he's feeling. You can empathize more easily with a person by holding a thing that they have held decades ago during a war. In the same way, you can empathize with, if you've just crash landed, imagine it, if you've just crash landed, where have you crash landed? You need to find where you are, you need to work it out on the map. How are you feeling? You must be like thinking, the Germans are going to come and get me, the enemy are going to capture me, and then what's going to happen to me? They could shoot me, etc., etc. Like, this is your lifeline. This is everything, to your chance of getting back to safety, getting home to see the people you love again. And just like objects like this really help me with stories. I hope that makes sense. The object which really got me emotionally was this. What is this? This is. This is a Second World War RAF cap. Where was it used? In Europe during the Second World War. When? During the Second World War. Why was it used? Well, it was a uniform, so like men in the Royal Air Force would have had to wear this. I don't know who wore this hat, but I'm gonna tell you a little story in a minute about this cap, because this cap really got me and really helped me write one of the stories in After the War. So when I was writing After the War, this is a story about a group of children who were Holocaust survivors. They survived terrible things in the Second World War, and they came to this country as refugees. And I found a photograph of some of these children. I've been really lucky to meet some of these children now they are old men. This lad in the middle is wearing a cap. And I was like, these Holocaust survivors, why is one of them wearing a uniform? And I wanted to know, why is one of them wearing a cap? And so I did a bit of research, and my friends at the Royal Air Force Museum in Cosford lent me the cap that boy is wearing. And they told me a bit about it. And I did a bit of digging, I did a bit of research, and it transpires this boy had terrible things happen to him during the Second World War. Terrible things happened to his family. He was about to be liberated by the British and flown from Europe to Britain, where he would be safer. With his friends. 300 children were taken in planes to England, but he initially refused to get on the plane. Why did he refuse to get on the plane? Because all the men who were going to take him on a plane were wearing uniforms, and he was terrified of men in uniforms, because men in uniforms, all they'd ever done was brutalize and terrorize and do terrible things to him and to the people that he loved. So he wouldn't get on the plane. So one of the airmen, the Who in my story, said, what if I gave you my cap and you wore my cap and you'd be wearing part of our uniform? Would you get on the plane with us then? And he did. And this is a picture of him in Britain a few hours later wearing his cap. And I just that really moves me. That really gets me. It makes me feel emotional that this airman saw that this boy was suffering, knew this boy had to get out of Europe to be safe because he was a child, and gave him the cap so that he would come to England. And I put that in my story. And for me, it's one of the 2 or 3 most emotional, powerful, meaningful pieces of writing that I've ever done in my life. And that's because I got hold of this cap, and that's because I had this photograph. So, what is it? What is it? Hang on, I'll do this again. What is it? It is an airman's cap. Who's wearing it? A Holocaust survivor. Why is he wearing it? Because the airman gave it to him. When did it happen? This is August the 15th, 1945. Where? It happened initially in Prague. Then they ended up coming to the Lake District in England. And how did it affect him? It gave him, I don't know, it gave him the strength to get on the plane and become a refugee and come to this country and become a British citizen. And that for me, do you see what I mean? Like, real objects from the Second World War can by asking those simple questions, what is it? Who would have used it? You use your knowledge and share ideas, and you can come up with ideas for a really good story. So that's now what I'm going to challenge you to do. This is what I'd like you to, I'll let you see it. This is what I'm going to ask you about. And I'm going to ask you the following questions about these. I'll just put it up again. Tell the team. So what I'll do now is I'll ask you the questions. I'll give you a couple of prompts for each question. Then I'll stop and you can freeze it and you can have a chat in the classroom if you want. So what is this? What is it? It is a Second World War pack of cards that was given to the men who were flying airplanes in the Second World War, so that they could identify airplanes very quickly in silhouette form from the front, from underneath, etc. And that's what they are. So I'll pause there so you can have a think about that. You might want to have a little chat about it and speculate a bit. There you go. It's upside down, sorry. Right, so we'll move on to the next one now. Like, so what is it? Who would have used it? So this would have been used by the airmen on the airfield. Like, if you were a pilot in the Second World War, you often spent a lot of time just sitting around waiting for the enemy to attack, and then you went and defended this country, particularly Spitfire and Hurricane pilots, which Roald Dahl was a Hurricane pilot, if you didn't know that fact. So that's who would have used it. And it'd be men sitting around on an airfield waiting for the enemy to come. Then suddenly they'd be off. They'd go really quickly. They'd be in the planes. They'd fly up. And within minutes, they'd be attacking the enemy, putting their lives on the line. And they would have this pack of cards. They would probably be playing with this pack of cards while they were waiting. I suppose the next question is, I won't ask why yet, why they would use this pack of cards. No, I will actually. So I'll pause now so you can think about the who. I got that in the wrong order, sorry. So next question I'm going to ask you is why? Why would they have used this cards? And I've kind of told you that, haven't I? Why do you think they would have had these cards? I've given you a little clue, quite a big clue probably. Why do you think they would have had these? And maybe have a talk about that now. I hope this works. Anyway, so why they would have used them? Because they were waiting. They needed to be able to identify planes when they flew up into the sky. They would have, they're flying at 300-400 miles an hour. They see an aeroplane. They have to know within a second whether it's a friendly plane or an enemy plane, and within that second they have to decide whether to shoot it down. If they got it wrong, if they saw one of our planes instead of one of the enemy planes, and they shot one of ours down, which did happen, it's like you're killing someone on your own side. You're defeating yourself. So that's why they would be playing with these cards, so they could memorize what other planes look like. The other questions: where did this happen? Where did this happen? Where were the British and American and Polish and lots of other countries as well, airmen? Where were they? You might want to do a bit of research at this point, but if not, I'll tell you after this pause. So the where they were was they were in airfields, usually in the east of Britain, but not just the east, because there were airfields that defended the west coast as well. And they'd be sitting on airfields, usually in the flatter areas of the country, sitting in the airfields waiting to defend this country against Nazi airplane aggressors. So that would be where they were. There'd be a lot in Lincolnshire, down to Norfolk and Suffolk and Kent especially, but there were airfields, even in the Lake District, there were airfields in the countryside. So you could think about that. Was the one near you, for instance? When? So we know this. When did the Second World War take place? What period were aeroplanes coming across a lot to attack this country? You might have an idea about that, so I'll pause there for a minute, then I might give you some more clues. The when is, so the Second World War, as you know, was 1939 to 1945. There was what was called the Phony War till about June 1940. And then in the summer of 1940, there was a lot of attacking going on of British airfields. And then there was the Blitz of London, Plymouth and other cities, Falmouth, around the country. So that was when, and a lot of the action happened in 1940, 1941, but it did go on later on into the war as well. So these would have been used by men during that period of time. So that's another element to your story. So we've done where, when, what, who. Why were they used? Well, no, we've done that. I've told you that. How did it help? I suppose I've already said that, but how do you think it helped having these cards? How do you think it helped the airmen having these cards? I've told you bits, but not all. Have a chat about how you think. And also, here's another how. How did it feel? How did it feel to be sat playing cards, looking at pictures of airplanes, and then suddenly you're in the air and you see one of these coming at you? Is it enemy? Is it friendly? How did that feel? How did those men, those characters, and maybe give them a name so it makes you understand how they might feel. So I'll have a little pause there again. So that's like a really quickly done video. I hope it makes sense, but it just shows you how I go about writing a story. And let's sort of play off this. I'm sure you've had your own ideas, but for me, what I would say was, so what is it? It's a pack of cards. Who's using it? It's a young pilot, and maybe he's just come, like a lot of pilots escaped from Poland when the Germans invaded and came to England, to Britain, to the UK, to fight in the Royal Air Force. Maybe he's a Polish guy and he's trying to learn what the enemy planes look like, because there was a lot of Polish airmen over here who really helped win things like the Battle of Britain. So who is he? Why is he doing it? Why is he? Let's say he is a Polish airman. Why is he learning to shoot, which planes to shoot down and which not? Because his country's been invaded by the Nazis. Terrible stuff happened in Poland from the Nazis. His family might still be there. He wants to defeat the Nazis as soon as possible. And the more he learns about these planes, the more chance he's got of helping win the war and liberating his country and going home to where he, to the people he loves and the country he loves. And that's why it's so important. What motivates a young man, usually in this case, although far more women are involved in the air forces now, thankfully. Why would a young man go up in an airplane and put his life at risk? Surely to protect the people and the country that he loves. So how did that affect him? I think I've covered that. And where and when, we know where and when. And if it was a Polish pilot, they were involved in the Battle of Britain, so that'd be sort of mid-9. Is it sort of? I can't remember. Check it out, look it up. I think it's mid-1940 to early 1941, but you need to check that because I need to check my facts. And that's how I go about writing a story using these cards. And you can do that with any object. I've got other objects in here. I've got my favourite, probably my favourite is this. This is a First World War shell. So it's the fuse or the front bit of a First World War shell. And I've written a story about the women who used to work in the factory and build these shells. And it didn't half help me. Do you know what? Because I'm writing about a woman 110 years ago who had to screw this very carefully onto the top of a bomb and if she didn't do it right, it would blow up and kill her and all her friends. She held that 110 years ago. I can guarantee you that a woman has held this and worked on it. Now it's in my hand. Now it's my responsibility to tell her story. And for me, I think it's now your responsibility, with all this VE Day stuff in the air, to tell a story perhaps about this pack of cards. Thank you for listening. I hope that was useful. I apologise for the teachers for it being a bit all over the place, but yeah, I'm not. That's something I need to work on. But thank you very much, and all the very best to all of you and your families.